What's up, everyone? Time really can fly on you sometimes. I can't believe it's been almost 5 days already since I posted, but anyway, here we go. Today I'm going to be doing things slightly differently and doing this as sort of a twofer just because these are both movies that are honestly best seen completely unspoiled. So that makes it convenient to just put them both into one. They're also both non-horror movies essentially, even though one of them is on Shudder. So it made sense, given the general content of this channel, to just cover them both at the same time. But make no mistake that it does not mean they are any less worth your time, because I really enjoyed both these movies, like, a lot. And actually, they're pretty handy movies to talk about together for a few reasons. They're both movies with actresses who are giving, if you ask me, the best performances of their careers. They both have very tense and tightly wound scripts that make familiar stories seem very fresh and new. They're both movies that do a really fantastic job of sustaining tension, and they're both movies that are vaguely topical without ever feeling preachy about it. And of course, as a sum of all of this, they are movies that are much better gone into blank, like completely blank. If you're curious about them at all, just pause this video right now and go give them a look. For those of you who still feel like proceeding, I am going to do my best to be vague and careful as I give my thoughts here. First off, Emily the Criminal was definitely one of the best surprises of the year for me. Aubrey Plaza plays the title character, a working class woman who has fallen on hard times in ways and for reasons that I will leave for you to discover. And her character rather innocently and casually finds herself wandering into a criminal lifestyle that, as it turns out, she has more of a knack for than she initially thinks. It's interesting right away because this is an avenue of crime we haven't really, to my mind, ever seen on film before. Even though it undoubtedly happens pretty much every day, it's probably happening right here where I live. It's probably happened at least 5 times since I started recording this video. I'm positive it has. And the sheer plausibility of the premise, combined with the relatability of Emily's plight, and the steely, confident escalation of pace with which the stakes grow in this movie, makes it a wickedly involving thriller. Plaza really rises to the leading role that she's been given here. Her character is tense, compelling, determined, bitterly abrasive and angry, but somehow always rootable. She's never over the top, and she always keeps Emily's simmering desperation just present and visible enough to work as the foundation for the movie's tension. That's perfectly exemplified in the opening scene, which is largely staged around a sustained close-up while she has a conversation with someone. It's one of the many scenes in the movie that is so good that it could almost function as a little short film on its own. I'm uncertain what her chances are when it's all said and done, but I'm really hoping that Audrey doesn't get overlooked come awards season with this one. This is also the feature-length debut from writer-director John Patton Ford, who is clearly a genuine talent. And then, of course, you have Theo Rossi, more or less being Theo Rossi in a movie, but whatever, he's just fine here. He's perfectly all right. I have heard some comparisons to Uncut Gems with this film, and in my opinion, that's not quite accurate. They are both movies with flawed characters who are trying to stay ahead of everyone else. The major difference, though, is that Adam Sandler's character Howard in Uncut Gems is such a hopelessly entwined gambling addict that he cannot change even if he would really want to. Emily, despite her desperate circumstances, is a person who can change if she wants to, and does, although whether that's for the better or the worse, they leave up to you to decide. So next up we have The Apology, written and directed by Alison Locke. This is a single-location dramatic thriller that, for most of its runtime, falls into the category of what you might hear people refer to as a chamber piece. In fact, this is a script that you could transfer to the stage without making many adjustments at all. Now, obviously, nobody is legally obligated to like anything, but I still have to say that I was a little bit surprised by the amount of negative reviews that this one is getting. In similar fashion to The Criminal, Anna Gunn plays a woman who has fallen on hard times for reasons I will leave for you to discover, even though the trailers, for all I know, might reveal it, but I didn't watch them, so there you go, I'm throwing you a bone. And her character Darlene is preparing to spend Christmas Eve alone, minus a friendly neighbor played by Janeane Garofalo, until she's interrupted in the middle of the night by a surprise barge-in visit from a man from her past played by Linus Roach, whose relationship to her and so forth I will once again leave for you to find out for yourself. First of all, the single location in this film never felt like a constraint or a limitation or any kind of a handicap. If anything, I felt like the house actually exuded a presence that enhanced the film. And I don't care what anyone says, I honestly thought Anna Gunn and Linus Roach were both superb in this movie. I think this is the first time post Breaking Bad that I've seen Anna Gunn get a juicy role that she can really tear into. As with Aubrey Plaza and Emily the Criminal, a lot of the tension here largely grows out of watching the pictures that Anna Gunn paints with all the expressions on her face. Although this is in some ways a less, shall we say, moderated performance. But then again, with all the stifling supporting roles that Anna Gunn has had to choke down over the last 10 years or so, you can understand that she might be a little bit pent up as a performer. And Linus Roach shows us here, as he did in Mandy, that he's a very dynamic performer who can veer from one end of a character's spectrum to another in ways that would just feel inconsistent and desperate with a lesser actor in the part. And the way these two work together to keep things turning, sometimes with very simple, almost wordless exchanges, is just first-rate stuff. Much of the criticism I've seen of this movie seems to lie in how it seems to have a lot of tropes in it, and it's a very obvious film that feels predictable and rather over the top, not too subtle. And it's not that I think that the major points of this movie are necessarily that hard to predict, but I also didn't think that the broad strokes of Emily the Criminal were really that hard to predict. In both films, it's how the characters get you there that makes it feel like a fresh journey. In the case of The Apology specifically, this feels like a throwback to the kind of classic, unabashed melodramas that we really don't get that much of anymore. And as Sidney Lumet, may he rest in peace, pointed out, melodrama does not necessarily refer to overacting or hyperbole or excess. In the classic sense, it refers to stories that are taken to an extreme so that they are not probable, but still possible. What movies like this lack in subtlety, they make up for in potency. If you were cynical, you could look at a script like this and see it as something that would make a soap opera cast blush. But much like melodrama, soap opera isn't necessarily a genre I have any real problem with as long as it's done well. And The Apology, in my opinion, is done very, very well. That's all I've got for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm going to try to see if I can't get at least one more video up before Christmas, but if not, I hope you all have an awesome holiday. Thank you so much for your support. It's been great getting to meet everybody in this nice little online horror community over the past month or so. If nothing else, I will be doing a live stream with JT's Horror Discussions and The Real Fifth Beatle. I'm going to leave links to both their channels in my description. And we're going to be doing a year in review thing probably sometime between Boxing Day and the 30th, but we will of course post details when that happens. Anyway, have an awesome rest of your day, guys. Stay warm out there, and I will catch you all again soon.